Well, to start with, we have the 2019 Hillary Chardonnay, I should say, which I have right in front of me. And this was definitely one of my favourites in the range. I just thought it was beautifully pitched. I think with Chardonnay, some of those other techniques, you know, they're not cheap to do, essentially. Whereas I think, and because of that, it means sometimes winemakers kind of cut corners. But I saw that this wine really had lovely oak, which was very restrained, had some nice barrel ferment there, some, you know, bit of flintiness there. It had a lot of the other things that Lindale had, that the top end Orlando had. Just the fruit was just a bit more laid back and a bit riper and a bit more generous. And I thought it was really well pitched for a consumer who likes Chardonnay, but maybe not into the super lean kind of modern stuff. But it's kind of a midway in that. Tony, what did you thought?
I mean, I note that it's 90% Piccadilly Valley, which is just over behind my back here by about a kilometre or so. And so I do have an affinity with wines from this part of the world. And it's got all that. It's got the classic white stone fruits that you see from the hills and Piccadilly Valley. My notes really, again, about clever oak management and the fact that you've got that sort of white stone fruit and you've got that little tweak and little squeeze of citrus, lemony sort of stuff that goes with it. I kind of always quite often describe it as, you know, white stone fruits with someone just squeezing a bit of lemon over the top of it. And I did note there's a lovely creaminess to it, a nutty creaminess to it. So nothing was overworked here. So that's why I really like this wine. I mean, you see so many Chardonnays that have just been given the full, you know, everything gets turned up to volume 11 and you lose the sense of what the fruit is. This doesn't have that. This has a really lovely drinkability, keeps its varietal shape and flavour spectrum. And I also noted, don't drink this too cold. I think I started drinking, you know, tasting this when it was really cold. And I found that the acidity was accentuated by that. So I let it warm up a little bit and come to room temperature, closer to room temperature. And I found that then the fruit was able to come up a little bit more. And I just wanted to see the best expression of that wine. So I really love that wine, and it spoke to me exactly of what it should be.
Having just retasted that wine, the length was fantastic. I didn't really see that, I think, first, but it just lingers beautifully. Like, it shows some concentrated fruit from a good region such as Piccadilly. Jenny from Victoria, and obviously one of Australia's great winemaking states when it comes to Chardonnay. How does the Victorian palate see this wine?
Victorian palate saw all of those things, but I zeroed in on the creaminess, the textural component. And again, I've got a question for Ben in particular. I think this is this new modern kind of character that Australian producers in particular have been looking at developing in their Chardonnay and their Riesling and other white varieties. Only over the last 10, 15 years, they have worked very, very hard on looking at their textural components of their whites, something that Australian white wine producers never really kind of participated in. This is a more European sensibility, I think, coming through. So Ben, how do you get that delicious creaminess in that wine?
I think it's a combination of leaving the wine on lees for an extended period of time and a bit of batonnage, so a bit of barrel stirring, but not too much. You don't want to overwork the wine and oxidize it. You just want to keep gently lifting those lees back up. So as the yeast breaks down, it releases compounds that attribute to that creaminess. But it's also, I think, about oak. So we use the 1 or 2 year oak predominantly in this, and large format puncheon. So just bringing in a little bit of those oak tannins, but not too much, so that you get the astringency. It just adds a bit of layering to that creaminess as well. So the combination of the oak tannin as well as the breaking down of the yeast, that autolysis character in there as well. I think it's those two really, but you need a really nice acid structure as well to carry that creaminess. Otherwise it gets sort of broad and flabby. I think, as Tony was saying, as it warms up, you start to see the acidity sort of starts to fade a bit, and some of those other flavours really kick in and show themselves off, and sort of they work in synergy with that acidity.
Shante, texture's what you want to see in Chardonnay, isn't it?
100%. You hit the nail on the head. It's very true. And I actually think the New Heroes range, in fact, all of the wines that I saw there, I thought that the consideration towards texture was just turned up that little bit more. And that's what I could see that line carried right through the range. I had a note on minerality with this wine too, more on the hints of kind of oyster shell, maybe a little bit of cucumber kind of element. I still thought it had generosity, but it had that lovely concentration of, you know, slow ripening in Piccadilly Valley and all the cool climate elements. So a very smart wine.
I mean, talking about texture, Ben, are you looking to make food-friendly styles, and is texture a part of that, or is it just, you know, general good winemaking these days is concentrating more on texture?
I think great wine and great food always go together no matter what, really. But I think, you know, where our culture is going at the moment, food and wine, like drinking, is going to be more and more associated with the, you know, meal time. So I think if you're not making wines to be consumed with food, then you're going to miss the boat, really. So absolutely, it's always a consideration.